Okay, this hour we're going to take your phone calls now with G. Edward Griffin, author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. A nation that resorts to the use of fiat money, that's paper money, without precious metal backing, has doomed itself to economic hardship and political disunity. That's what we have right now, Ed.
Well, it certainly is. And this is an immutable law that comes from history. There have been many nations that have done exactly that, and none of them survived. They all went down in economic flames. And I don't know why people think that the United States somehow has a get-out-of-jail-free card, that we're exempt from these laws of history. But I guess it's because we don't know history. This history that you're talking about is not taught in schools, and people just don't know about it. So they think that what's happening today is the first time it's ever happened. So that's part of our problem.
The subtitle of your book is A Second Look at the Federal Reserve. What was the first look?
Well, actually, the first look is that people think it's a wonderful thing. The first look is that it appears to be a government agency. The first look is that it's run by gentlemen of culture and restraint and education and character, and that they're working to defend the best interests of the American people. That's the first look. The second look reveals something entirely different. Actually, I kind of borrowed that theme. My very first book, George, was called The Fearful Master, A Second Look at the United Nations. And that was published way back in 1974. And it was pretty much based on the same assumption that the first look was very favorable, but really it turns out to be a myth.
Very good. Let's go to some calls. You ready? Go to West Hills, California. Andy, first-time caller. Go ahead, Andy.
Yes, I'm a member of a couple of groups that are active in the movement to abolish the Fed, and I have a couple of suggestions for your listeners to how to make it happen. Number one is to believe that it can happen, and there's good reason for that. The couple bills in Congress, H.R. 1207 has currently 279 co-sponsors, and S604 has 20 co-sponsors currently. Second, join endthefed.us and campaignforliberty.com. Third, show up at our next rally. We've already had 2 of them in front of every Federal Reserve Bank in the United States.
How many people total?
In the entire United States, I don't know precisely, but there was a couple hundred at the L.A. branch, and we've had 2 of them so far. Of course, none of them covered by the media. Number 4, distribute 100 more flyers. Flyers can be got at libertyway.net/issues. There's a great trifold pamphlet on that that you can give to people who don't know the story.
Why do you want to do away with the Fed, Andy? Do you share Edward's views?
Of course. Yeah, I'm actually an economics major myself, and so I was fooled for many, many years myself.
Go ahead. Do you have a question for him while you're here?
Well, I've got one more thing, a couple more items. Actually, I just want to see if he agrees with a couple more suggestions. One is to meet with the House rep and your senator to co-sponsor the bills to audit and abolish the Fed. And if the representatives refuse to create a group to remove them from office next election.
What do you think of that, Ed?
Well, that's certainly the right thing to do. Yes, I guess the short answer is yes. I would like to make a brief comment on the bill to audit the Fed versus the bill to abolish the Fed.
Ron Paul wants to audit.
Yes, and I think under the circumstances that's a correct move. It's creating awareness on the part of the average person that they wouldn't have had otherwise. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I want to hasten the debate to the end of the line, which says we don't need to audit the Fed. We need to abolish the Fed. That's my position, and because everything the Fed is doing is right out in the open. We know it's a scam. We know it's immoral. We know it's creating money out of nothing. We don't need to audit any of that to figure it out. It's something. It's a blight upon our system and it ought to be removed.
What's the salary and who pays the head of the Federal Reserve? Who pays Bernanke right now? Do you know? I don't.
I can answer the second one. I don't know how much Bernanke makes in the form of a paycheck. he probably makes a lot more in other ways than through a paycheck. You know, if you're sitting at the control tower where you've got your hand on the levers, the money levers, and you know how much money is going to be pumped into the economy and who's going to get it and so forth, it's not hard to figure out where to make smart investments. And also, there are a lot of people that are trying to buy your friendship, and you know, you get a lot of presents and a lot of tips and a lot of at least an opportunity for under the table payments. Yeah. I don't think the paycheck is the main thing.
No, his base is 191,300. 191,300.
Okay.
Set by the Board of Governors of the Fed.
This is not where I don't think where the issue really is. But I do know who pays that, and that's the American taxpayer.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, we do. Because the Federal Reserve System collects interest on this money it creates out of nothing from the federal government. And that money is used to pay for the Fed expenses, including Bernanke's salary. Any amount left over, by the way, is returned to the Treasury in a big gesture of
kindness and
generosity. Yeah, but in other words, the taxpayer pays all of the expenses of the Fed, and so literally this means that we are paying the expenses of a cartel. It'd be like we paid the expenses of the oil cartel,
yes.
And then they returned some of the money back to us. So we pay that.
Let's go to Los Angeles. Tim on the wild card line. Hi, Tim. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. President. How you doing?
Fine,
Thanks for having me on.
They call me Mr. President, Edward, every once in a while.
I like that.
I have not announced you. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you very much. I got a question. Actually, two questions. And my first question is I have a lot of friends from like We Are Change LA, for example, who say end the Fed, end the Fed. But what about nationalizing the Feds? Because I know that the Treasury coins money. So if we were to nationalize paper money instead of using Fed notes, we use like U.S. notes instead. Will that work?
Well, my opinion on nationalizing the Fed is that that's just making a very minor change. It's not an issue of who creates money out of nothing. It's the fact that anybody does it. In other words, the idea behind nationalizing it is that if we just get those big bad bankers out of the picture and turn the system, the corrupt system, over to those nice, wise, and trustworthy politicians, then everything will be fine. And I don't think that's very realistic. The politicians will always be in the pockets of the banks. Even if the bank was nationalized, the people running the national bank would be in the pockets of the bankers. There's no question about that. And besides that, it's unconstitutional for the federal government to create money out of nothing also. So everything argues against nationalizing the banks.
Which leads me to this question then. So what is the difference between, like, say, a bank, like, all the banks we have out there, and credit unions? Because, I'm in a credit union, and all the dividends comes to me. I mean, it isn't much, but still dividend checks. And we have the power to tell the credit unions when to open, when to close, what days to be open. We have the power. Voting power, that is.
Yep. What do you think, Ed?
Well, I like the credit unions a lot better than the banks, but my understanding is that the credit unions are always coupled with the bank for its source of money. Now, I might be wrong on that, but whether it's a bank or it's a credit union, I just believe that they should be free of government control. That doesn't mean they should be free to defraud their depositors. They should be regulated like any other business, which means that they should be required to keep their contracts. If I'm going to open up a business and sell, sell insurance, and I write a policy and I agree to pay somebody if their house burns down, I think the laws ought to require me to keep my contract. But that's the only extent that the government should be involved, is to make sure that people honor their contracts. So a bank or a savings and loan or a credit union, I think, should be entirely free to run business as any other business, provided only that they keep their agreements with their depositors.